What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. It's the 16th of January, 2024. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Jordan Love's breakout performance for the Green Bay Packers over the Dallas Cowboys this weekend, how it connects to the ongoing moon riddle connected to the NFL, and, of course, the other riddles connecting Green Bay to JFK, the moon landing, and so on. On this channel, we look at the remarkable world of synchronicity through the lens of numerology, which reveals a deep interconnectedness between major events in the world of TV, politics, and sport, which on the surface may not appear to be related to the average observer. Last week, I talked about Astrobotic's Peregrine mission to the moon, and you'll find this video on my channel if you take a look. And in that video, the Peregrine is a type of falcon, and I explained how it was all synced up to the NFL's Atlanta Falcons and the firing of their head coach, Art Smith, which was just a couple of hours before launch. In today's live stream, we'll be focusing more on this same riddle. Now, on Sunday, new Packers quarterback Jordan Love had a breakout performance against the Dallas Cowboys. A couple of days earlier, we learned about the death of Jordan Miller, who was the brother of actor Jason Patric. Now, Patrick played the main character in the 1997 movie Speed 2 alongside Sandra Bullock. Now, this is interesting because in August of last year, I made a video talking about Sandra Bullock. You'll find this linked below in the description, along with a number of other posts and videos. And this video talks about how the death of Sandra Bullock's longtime partner, Brian Randall, was connected to India's moon landing that same month. The Hindu god of the moon is named Chandra, which is very similar, of course, to the name Sandra. And remember, just last week, the U.S. sent their first mission to the moon since the Apollo program in 1972, which turned out to be a failed moon landing. Now, prior to the movie Speed 2, the lead male role was played by actor Keanu Reeves. And I've actually done some work in the past showing how Keanu Reeves is connected to the Green Bay Packers. In my decode of the film Matrix Resurrections from December of 2022, I explained how Aaron Rodgers dressed up as Keanu Reeves for Halloween. Both Rodgers and Reeves share the same middle name, Charles. But there were more staggering coincidences with the death of Jordan Miller, again, the brother of Jason Patric, a man who shares the same first name with Jordan Love. Jordan Miller was struck and killed by a bus from New Jersey Transit, and that's pretty ironic, considering how the plot of the first Speed film is centered around a bomb on a bus. On top of that, multiple news outlets are reporting that Jordan Miller worked at the Port Authority bus terminal in Midtown Manhattan. And how weird is this, right? Working at a bus terminal, getting hit by a bus, his brother starred in the sequel to the big movie about a bus. Well, if you actually go to the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan, the building that Jordan Miller worked at, you'll see this statue, which portrays Ralph Cramden, the lead character, a bus driver from the show The Honeymooners. Well, just one day after we learned of the death of Jordan Miller, we learned about the death of actress Joyce Randolph, who played Trixie Norton on the television series The Honeymooners. This, of course, connecting to this ongoing riddle with the moon and the U.S. moon landing. Now, in the language of Gematria, notice how the moon sums to 99. And not only did Joyce Randolph die at the age of 99, but she was also 9 months and 9 days before her next birthday. Now, this is pretty wild stuff, and as I constantly say, this gives us a clue that there's far more to numerology than just conspiracy or people sitting around at a table. This is the matrix that we live in. The world that we live in seems to be some sort of geometric masterpiece. So today we'll be talking about how the death of one Jordan coincides with the rise of another Jordan. Jordan Love's Packers put up a whopping 48 points against the Cowboys over the weekend. And this is pretty noteworthy because in last week's video, I pointed out how the Falcons gave up 48 points to the Saints. And 48, a significant number connected to the moon. Now, 48 points is the most the Packers have ever scored in the playoffs. And the last time they did it, the only other time they did it, was in January of 2011, a span of exactly 13 years before this past weekend. And they did it in 2011 against the Atlanta Falcons. 48 points in 2011. So that year, the Packers won the Super Bowl in the city of Dallas with head coach Mike McCarthy at the helm. And that stands out because this week, the Packers won in Dallas, defeating head coach Mike McCarthy. And in 2011 and now in 2024, both years, the Packers were the lowest seed in the NFC playoffs. Now, in November, I made this mega post, which is linked down in the description below, along with a number of other things. This post explains the numerology of Super Bowl 45, which is the game that the Packers and Mike McCarthy won in Dallas. This post explains how it was all a riddle for the JFK assassination. Remember, it was JFK who first promised America that we would go to the moon. And JFK was killed in the city of Dallas a span of 13 days after Mike McCarthy was born. And that's relevant because this game was the Packers' 13th NFL championship, and it was won in Super Bowl 45. Check out how 13 equals 45 in both of our reduction methods of Gematria. The reduction or Pythagorean method provides a numerical value to every word or phrase in the English alphabet by reducing every double digit to a single digit prior to adding it to the equation. So you'll also notice that this post here talks about the Apollo 11 moon landing. There's some, I don't know if it's a huge topic, but here I pointed out the Apollo moon mission. Very connected to all of this. So this riddle continues with what the Packers did against the Cowboys in Dallas this past weekend. But before we get there, let's talk about the fascinating numerology of Joyce Randolph from the Honeymooners. The first thing I want to point out is that this is all also going to connect to 9/11 because Jordan Miller worked at the New York Port Authority, a terminal which has a statue of Jackie Gleason in front of it. And it was the New York Port Authority that approved the funding for the World Trade Center. In the language of Gematria, New York Port Authority sums to 110, and it was January 10th or 1/10 when Jordan Miller was killed by a bus. Joyce Randolph was born as Joyce Sorolla. And notice how she was born in Detroit, Michigan, which is also connected to the NFL as the Detroit Lions just won their first playoff game in over 30 years. That game was played right after the Packers beat the Cowboys. Now, the name Joyce Sorolla sums to 990 in reverse Sumerian. The Sumerian cipher simply multiplies the alphabetic order by 6. And Joyce Sorolla equals 990. Her name also 66 in reduction, an upside down 99. Now passing away at the age of 99, just like the moon. She also died 9 months and 9 days before her next birthday. But what's so interesting about this measurement, 9 months and 9 days, is that this is also 283 days. And in what I consider to be the most significant extended form of Gematria, the Latin cipher, also known as Agrippa's key, which uses the classical Latin alphabet, the moon has a numeric value of 283. Now, if you think about 90 and 99 with the moon, this is like an upside down 666, which is the number of the moon. Notice how 666 sums to 2083, just like the moon, 283. Without the word and, 666 sums to 2038, and the moon is an average of 238,000 miles from Earth. Notice how Joyce Randolph was born 238 days after Jackie Gleason's birthday. Again, Jackie Gleason, the man who played the bus driver, the lead character on The Honeymooners. Now, on The Honeymooners, Jackie Gleason plays Ralph Cramden with his wife Alice. And look at the last name Cramden in Gematria, both the Latin and standard method. The standard method, almost identical to Latin, but uses the current 26-letter alphabetic order. Notice how Cramden has the same gematria as moon, which is very ideal for a show called The Honeymooners, right? Astrology coded into major media. Furthermore, if you write out Ralph and Alice Cramden in ordinal, it sums to 170, just like moon, just like Cramden. And when Jackie Gleason died, all the way back in 1987, he was a span of exactly 71 years and 17 weeks old. Furthermore, he was born exactly 107 lunar phases, or new moons, before Joyce Randolph. Jackie Gleason would currently be 107 years old. And Joyce Randolph died 321 days after his birthday. Well, this number 321 stands out for a couple of different reasons. First of all, the New York Port Authority bus terminal is in Manhattan, the site of the World Trade Center attacks in 2001. In Latin Gematria, Manhattan sums to 321. In that same method, Joyce Randolph equals 1,321. This 1321 is interesting for another reason, because 1321 is the 216th prime number. A prime number divisible only by 1 and itself. And here we see the 216th prime. Well, the moon is 2,160 miles across at the equator. And of course, 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. Notice how the phrase moon landing in the alphabetic order sums to 118, just like bus driver. And in a little bit, we'll be talking about this big NFL game in Dallas, Texas, which has matching 118 and 179 gematria with moon landing. Jackie Gleason died a span of 118 days after his birthday. The famous TV bus driver. The death of Jackie Gleason also occurred on June 24th, which is pretty interesting because this is the founding date of modern Freemasonry through the Premier Grand Lodge of England, June 24th. And if you saw my last video, which focused on the Peregrine mission to the moon, I talked at length about a strong Freemasonry riddle, as this was all organized by NASA, which is probably the most Masonic government institution we have. Also, this date, June 24th of 1987, this is the same exact day that the world's most famous soccer player, Lionel Messi, was born. And Lionel Messi, he is a walking Freemasonry Jesuit riddle from Argentina, where the first ever Jesuit pope is from. But not to get sidetracked, what I also wanted to point out is that the word moon equals 51. And last week's video talked about how it was all synced up to the Falcons' loss in Super Bowl 51. Remember, they were leading by a score of 28-3, like the moon 283. Well, the television series The Honeymooners only lasted on television for less than a year. In fact, it was exactly 51 weeks, matching Moon. The wife on the show, Alice Cramden, 51. And now we have the death of Joyce Sorolla, who played Trixie, also 51 in reduction. So for those looking to prove the existence of numerology, look no further than this death right here. 99 years old, 9 months, 9 days before her birthday. The Moon, 99. The Moon, 283. 283 days before her birthday. From a show called The Honeymooners. It doesn't get much stronger than this, guys. This is wild stuff. Remember Jackie Gleason's lines, "One of these days, Alice, you're going to the moon." Well, maybe they meant that a little more literal than we thought. Fascinating stuff. So now, let's touch on the death of Jordan Miller, who was hit by a bus in New Jersey on his way to work at the Port Authority. Now, this happened on the 10th day of the year, which also had numerology of 10. This guy named Jordan dying. Well, the Packers' Jordan wears number 10. And if he beats San Francisco next weekend, the Packers will be 5-5 against San Francisco in the playoffs all time. And that's interesting because when you look up the number 55, we quickly learn that it's the 10th Fibonacci number and the 10th triangular number. And of course, 5 plus 5 equals 10. And isn't it interesting that we're told that he was hit by a bus at 5:05 a.m. Look at this. Approximately 5:05 in the morning is when he was hit. This date, January 10th, also had primary numerology of 55. And his brother, Jason Patrick, his real name is John Miller. And notice how the name John Miller sums to 55. The number 55 is also connected to the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin equals 55 in Gematria. And if you look up the state of Wisconsin and punch in the date that it was admitted to the Union, May 29th of 1848, well, look at that. It's a date with a life lesson number of 55. Also, Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is where the Packers play their home games, sums to the 55th prime number, 257. So a lot of 55 to go around. Jordan Miller's real name, his full name, was Jordan Andrew Miller. And notice how this sums to 110. And he died on January 10th when he was hit by bus, as the headline says, after being hit by bus, 110. The original Speed movie, starring Keanu Reeves, who's synced up with Aaron Rodgers, that film came out on a date with 110 numerology. And again, that's the movie about a bus. 110 was also a really important number to the 9/11 attacks, as the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, stood 110 stories with the 110-meter antenna. Osama bin Laden and Rockefeller both equal 110, just like 911. Well, Jordan Miller was on his way to work at the New York Port Authority, which equals 110. And again, they funded the World Trade Center back in the 60s. Now, there's a stronger riddle with Keanu Reeves here, because in the film The Matrix, Keanu Reeves plays a character named Thomas Anderson, and on his passport, it appears to have an expiration date of September 11th, 2001. To top this off, his name is Thomas, and the name Thomas means twin, a lot like the Twin Towers. In Gematria, Thomas Anderson has matching 166 and 58 Gematria with Twin Towers. Jordan Miller died in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is just across the Hudson River from Manhattan, where the Twin Towers stood. Now, if you measure from the original release date of the film Speed, with the bomb on the bus, June 10th of 1994, notice how Jordan Miller died exactly 29 years and 7 months after that film came out. Well, 2,970 is the Latin gematria of New York, New York, 2970. If you instead write out New York City, it sums to 1997. Well, the second Speed film, with Jordan Miller's brother as the lead, came out in the year 1997. If we instead measure from the release date of this Speed sequel to the death of Jordan Miller, we get 10,806 days. And 186, these are the same 3 digits found in Speed 2's gematria, using standard English. And how interesting is it that in the original Speed movie, the bus will explode if the bus drops to 49 miles per hour or less. And in gematria, the word speed equals 49. The second Speed film came out a span of 4 years and 90 days before the 9/11 attacks. Just like Speed is 49. And remember, the 49th prime number is 227. September the 11th equals 227, and the 227th prime number. There's, of course, a huge riddle that I don't want to get too into, but when you write out 22 divided by 7, you get a sum of 314. And on a calculator, if you take 22 and divide it by 7, you get the first 3 digits of pi, 3.14. Just like in gematria. And I point this out because on the same day as the September 11th attacks in 2001, the book Life of Pi was published. Pi, 314, the circle, 227. It comes together way too well. Now, something that really stands out about this, you have 2 male lead actors, Jason Patric and Keanu Reeves. Well, isn't it interesting that Keanu Reeves and Jason Patric both have the exact same gematria? 45, 54, 126, 171. Now, the most noteworthy number here, well, you have the 126, which stands out because Speed 2 was 126 minutes long. 116 minutes for this first Speed. That's an upside-down 9/11. I'm doing this decode on January 16th, in fact. But this number, 171, notice how Speed and New Jersey both equal 171. Well, the 171st prime number is 1019. The 119th prime number is 653. Well, that's the number of days between the birthdays of Keanu Reeves and Jason Patric. Jordan Miller dead in New Jersey, which equals 119. Just like his last name, Miller, equals 119. The second Speed film came out 9 months and 11 days after Keanu Reeves' birthday. Notice how the release date for that film was also 116. The 2 films were released 3 years and 3 days apart. The Twin Towers stood for 33 years. Of course, 33 as matching gematria with New York. And New York, New York. Twin Towers equals 330. Miller 33, just like Speed 2. Also, if you write out 33 and New York, New York, you get a value of 156. Jordan Miller dead 8,156 days after the Twin Towers were destroyed. Twin Towers 156 with capital letters. So I'm going to come back to this Freemasonry riddle in a little bit, but first let's talk about the Freemasonry team of the NFL, which is Green Bay. of course, Green Bay with the Masonic G on their helmet. Notice how Green Bay sums to 139, just like Freemasonry, 139. And at the bottom of this post, I go into more detail about this. Atlanta Falcons also has this 139. So does NASA. And the Gematria of Green Bay Packers is very similar to Freemasonry. And if you use the rule of Kal-El, which is something Freemasonry allegedly practices, then you could technically say these values are the same, since the number 1 can be added or subtracted from any value. So strong links there, but let's go into a little bit of detail about the Green Bay Packers playoff record and how these numbers are coded into the name Jordan, which is the first name that Love shares with Miller. So as we see, after the Packers beat the Cowboys, that was their 62nd playoff game of all time. And in the alphabetic order, the name Jordan equals 62. The quarterback who led the Packers to their first 2 Super Bowl titles was Bart Starr, who died back in the year 2019. Well, if you measure from his death to the date of this weekend's game in Dallas, notice how he died exactly 62 sidereal months before this game. A sidereal month measures the time it takes for the moon to complete an orbit of the Earth in relation to the stars. So it's a little bit less than a lunar phase. So exactly 62 years after 62 sidereal months after Bart Starr dies, we get Jordan Love in this playoff game. And Jordan equals 62. The Packers picked up their 37th win in the playoffs. And in Gematria, the name Jordan equals 37. Well, with the S exception, so does Packers. Packers equals 37. This is also a number coded into the birthday of head coach Matt LaFleur for the Packers. Matt LaFleur was born on the 307th day of the year. The Packers avoided getting their 26th loss in this game in the playoffs. And notice how Jordan equals 26. Wisconsin also equals 62 with the S exception. And notice how Jordan Love's next birthday would be his 26th. Well, this game was held 293 days before his 26th birthday. And 293 is the 62nd prime number, connecting back to Jordan. Now, there's also a powerful riddle with the 2024 election coming up. And what's so significant about this is that Inauguration Day in 2025 takes place exactly 666 months after the first ever moon landing on Apollo 11. And we'll talk a lot about the number 666 as we go. But understand that, with the JFK assassination in Dallas, the constant riddles with Donald Trump, there's definitely something going on there. So we'll also touch on Abraham Lincoln, because this was another famous president to be assassinated. And the same numbers found in Jordan Love here were found in Abraham Lincoln's age when he died. 2,930 weeks. He was also 62 days after his birthday. Now, if you saw my channel at this time last year, I was talking a lot about the Green Bay Packers potentially going to Super Bowl 57, making this amazing run. And it turns out they did start to make a miraculous run, but they were shut down right before making the playoffs. Now, I can't help but wonder if I was instead reading the riddle for this year. And I'm not going to tell you guys the Packers are going to the Super Bowl because I was wrong last year, but there's some really fascinating things that suggest they might. Now, last year, we had this ultimate Jesus game between the Packers and Vikings, and this was played one day after the death of Pope Benedict. And never in my life have I seen more Jesus numbers coded into a game all the way down to the quarterback's records, the franchise records, the age of Wisconsin. It was just phenomenal. Now, in that game, Aaron Rodgers scored a touchdown with 9 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. And I pointed out how Jesus Christ equals 925 in standard Gematria. Well, notice how Jordan Love was 9,205 days old on Sunday for the game against the Cowboys. Now, Jordan Love's dad passed away in 2013 after he took his own life. I noted here that Jordan Love's dad died 9 years and 205 days after Brett Favre's dad died. And earlier this year, the Packers played a Monday Night Football game in Oakland. And the last time the Packers played a Monday Night Football game in Oakland, or against the Raiders, I should say, was the day after Brett Favre's dad died. So there's a huge riddle there as well. Furthermore, Jordan Love was 74 days after his birthday, which is the big Jesus number. Killing, cross, Messiah, gospel, all also 74 in ordinal. This was also 73 days without the end date. That's the big Packers number. Packers equals 73. And of course, Jordan Love has matching Gematria with both Packers and Wisconsin. You knew this would be the Packers' next guy from the day they drafted him, because his numbers were just too good. The name Prescott, the other quarterback in this game, notice how his name equals 116, just like Jordan Love and Packers. Aaron Rodgers had that 116 birth numerology as well. Packers scoring 48 points for their first time in the playoffs since they did it against Atlanta, who ended their season giving up 48 points against the Saints. In Gematria, Atlanta equals 48, which I missed last week. And this is a huge number for the moon this year because on the date April 8th, or 4/8, we get a total solar eclipse that passes directly over the United States. Notice how Sunday's game fell 85 days before this total solar eclipse, which equals 85. Green Bay, Wisconsin equals 85 as well. And Green Bay's first Super Bowl winning quarterback, Bart Starr, even died at the age of 85 a few years back. Now, when it comes to the moon, for instance, on my date calculator for enthusiast members and above, you get access to this brown lunation number. And the brown lunation number first began in 1923. Well, that's funny because Jordan Love was born 1,923 days after Dak Prescott, the two quarterbacks in this game. The word moon is a supermatch with Rome in Gematria. And I point this out because Rome was founded in the year 753 BC. Excuse me. The last Packers quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, was born during brown lunation number 753. Well, notice how the name Dak Prescott equals 753 in Gematria. In Latin, Dak Prescott has matching 503 Gematria with moon landing and Dallas, Texas. And I actually mentioned this number in my video last week because the Atlanta Falcons lost their 503rd game all time against the Saints. Notice how Aaron Rodgers was born 503 weeks before Dak Prescott. But if you were to include the end date in this measurement, you get a span of exactly 504 weeks. And this 54 is super important. The game over the weekend was also played 53 days or a span of 54 days after the anniversary of the JFK assassination in Dallas. Kennedy equals 504 in Latin Gematria. JFK 54 reverse. Now we get a new quarterback for Green Bay named Love, which has double Gematria of 54. In Latin, Green Bay equals 540. And think about how it's been 54 years since the Apollo 11 moon landing. The moon equals 540. This year, the Super Bowl will be held in Vegas. Vegas equals 54. And I've done some work on the Vegas shooting connected to JFK before. As the Route 91 festival, where this shooting took place, started a span of 54 days before the 54th anniversary of the JFK assassination. And this was carried out by a guy named Paddock, which equals 54. His full name, Stephen Craig Paddock, equals 540. He was from Clinton, Iowa, which equals 54. The JFK assassination was in the year 63, and when you write out 63, it sums to 54 and 54. And of course, JFK assassinated by a gunman from a high-rise building. Stephen Paddock shooting down on the festival from a high-rise hotel. Strong similarities there. Jordan Love has primary birth numerology of 130. Notice how in Latin, Freemasonry and total eclipse both equal 130. This breakout game against the Cowboys was exactly a span of 13 years after Aaron Rodgers' breakout game against the Falcons in 2011. And notice how Dallas equals 13 in reduction. Dallas head coach Mike McCarthy, born a span of 13 days before the JFK assassination. And McCarthy has 103 birth numerology, and his initials MM, of course, M, the 13th letter. The 13th Fibonacci number is 233. And check out Mike McCarthy's age for Rodgers' game against the Falcons when they scored 48 points. He was 17,233 days old. In the alphabetic order, John Fitzgerald Kennedy sums to 233. Now, in my video last week, I pointed out how Art Smith, the head coach for the Falcons, had 3 consecutive 7-10 seasons. And this appeared to point to the Gematria of Moon, 170, right? 7-10. Well, now we get Mike McCarthy. And notice how the name McCarthy equals 125. Well, the last 3 seasons for Mike McCarthy were all 12-5 seasons. 12 wins and 5 losses. Wisconsin also sums to 125 in ordinal. And if you look at the date of the game this weekend, notice how we just started Brown lunation number 1250, 125. What an amazing script. So what's the connection here between JFK and the state of Wisconsin? JFK was born on May 29th. Wisconsin was admitted to the Union on May 29th. On the date of the Packers' shellacking of the Cowboys this past Sunday, JFK would have been 21,969 days old. Well, the last 4 digits of his age, 1969. That's the year of the moon landing, Apollo 11 landing in 1969. You could also say this is the year 69. JFK was born during Brown lunation number -69. He was born on the 69th anniversary of Wisconsin's admission to the Union. 69, the moon landing in 69. Do you guys see why this is so significant? It's crazy. But what's so cool about the number 1969 is that if you flip the 9s upside down, you get a value of 666. And NASA stands for National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which sums to 666. Fake moon landing equals 666 in Satanic Gematria. Apollo equals 666 in Fibonacci. Did NASA pull off a fake moon landing? Did they pull off 6 of them? The name Kennedy equals 666 in Sumerian. And on Sunday, when Mike McCarthy got whooped by his former team, he was a span of 60 years and 66 days old. You may also remember that Aaron Rodgers was born 66 years and 6 months after JFK. In fact, Mike McCarthy was born 16,966 days after JFK. Again, these are the two guys who won the only Super Bowl played in Dallas. When Rodgers destroyed the Falcons in 2011, when McCarthy was the head coach, Mike was 566 months and 6 days old, also 66 days after his birthday. And on the date of that same game, Aaron Rodgers was 9,906 days old. What's going on here? This is insane. When you write out 666, you get matching 275 gematria with Jesus Christ, which equals 1275 in Latin. And look how old Jordan Love was on that same day in 2011. 12 years and 75 days old. And remember, for his breakout game against the Cowboys, he was 9,205 days old, which is the other Jesus Christ number. It's just too wild. Who's doing this coding? Is it Jesus himself? I mean, good Lord. As I use the name in vain. Sorry, I'm a sinner. Anyway, Jordan Love's birthday is completely synced up with the number 666. For starters, he was born in the year 1998, which is 666 times 3. When you write out the number 666, you also get gematria of 211, and Jordan Love was born on the 2nd of November, or 211. The Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl in the year 2011. 211 is the 47th prime number, and 666 is the number of the beast. Beast equals 47 in ordinal. Jordan Love's breakout game in Dallas was 4,747 days after Aaron Rodgers' breakout against the Falcons. And that game against the Falcons was a date with primary numerology of 47. So let's go a step deeper and look at Dak Prescott, the losing quarterback on Sunday. Dak Prescott was born on July 29th, which, I'm sure through no coincidence, is the same founding date as NASA. NASA founded on July 29th in the year 58. Remember, this year is Super Bowl 58. July 29th is the 210th day of the year. The name Dakota Prescott sums to 210 reverse. NASA equals 210 in Sumerian. And notice how Dak Prescott was born exactly 35 years after NASA was founded. In the alphabetic order, NASA equals 35. JFK, the 35th president. The phrase moon landing has the same 118 gematria as both Dallas, Texas, and Wisconsin. Dak Prescott was born 1,018 sidereal months after JFK, and his name Dakota Rain Prescott equals 1180 in Latin. This brings us to Green Bay, Wisconsin, which equals 1,018 in Fibonacci, and the Green Bay Packers were even founded on the 11th of August, or 11/8, Remember bus driver 18, bus driver Jackie Gleason dead 118 days after his birthday. In the reverse order, moon landing in Dallas, Texas both sum to 179. Jordan Love was born exactly 179 months after Aaron Rodgers. And the Packers coach, Matt LaFleur, was born in the year 1979. The last quarterback for the Packers before Rodgers was Brett Favre, whose name equals 1079. 179 is the 41st prime number. When Aaron Rodgers had his breakout game in Atlanta back in 2011, it was 41 years and 179 days after the last moon landing. A perfect prime number connection. And to make that 41 stand out even more, Rodgers and Green Bay both equal 41. 41, the 13th prime number. Rodgers won that game on his way to the Packers' 13th NFL championship. And now exactly 13 years later, we get the Jordan Love breakout game. So here we're talking about Super Bowl 58. 58, a big Freemasonry number, secret society. However, remember that Freemasonry also equals 59, as it does in Hebrew as well. So maybe this is next year. You know, I'm not saying anything about the future with the NFL. I don't want to see any comments talking about how people bet their whole life savings or something on this shit. Don't be a fool. So this Freemasonry riddle brings us back to the death of Jordan Miller, who got hit by a bus over there in New Jersey. Jordan Miller died exactly 111,964 days after the founding of Freemasonry, which I'm talking about because Jackie Gleason died on Freemasonry's anniversary, June 24th. Well, I point this 1964 out because Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock were both born in the year 1964. And speed equals 164 in Gematria, just like Miller. Ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry sums to 1911. Jackie Gleason's real name, John Herbert Gleason, sums to 1191. These are the same digits found in the date 9/11/01 for the 9/11 terror attacks. Sandra Bullock, born on a date with upside-down 9/11 numerology. Sandra Bullock was 10,911 days old when Speed came out, the movie she starred in. And you remember Keanu Reeves 9 months and 11 days after his birthday for the second Speed film. The name Sandra Bullock has matching gematria with World Trade Center, the World Trade Center, and Twin Towers. Sandra Bullock also has gematria of 691. Well, Sandra Bullock is 691 days older than Jason Patric, her co-star in the second Speed film. Masonry equals 691, just like eclipse of the sun, 691. (691) is the 125th prime number. And remember, I just pointed this out because we are currently under Brown lunation 1250. 125. Jordan Miller dead 12 weeks and 5 days before the eclipse. News of his death breaking just as the new moon, 1250, begins. Total solar eclipse 994. Speed released in 1994. The name Sandra matches moon in Gematria. Remember, the Hindu name of the god of the moon is Chandra. Also, Sandra Bullock equals 218, just like the Hebrew value for moon. Sandra also that has that 216 which is the width of the moon. Some more interesting numbers here, but the last thing I want to talk about before I end this video is how this game in Dallas from Sunday is actually connected to the presidency and the next inauguration day. Now, a lot of decoders constantly predicting the assassination of Donald Trump. I, for the sake of peace and order, hope it doesn't happen. But you can't ignore the numerical riddles, which are constant anyway. And, this doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the riddles are there. When Donald Trump first became the president in 2017, the year on the Hebrew calendar, it was 5777 on the Jewish calendar. So a 777 in the year. And when he took office, Donald Trump was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. Well, on Sunday, Donald Trump was 77 years and 7 months old, exactly. And in ordinal, Green Bay equals 77. Now, when Green Bay won their 13th championship in Dallas, it was exactly 389 mercurial years after JFK was born, and his death was all about the planet Mercury. Now, 389, that's the 77th prime number. The Pittsburgh Steelers were even 77 years old at the time. Jordan Love was born 12,777 days after Mike McCarthy, the coach he defeated on Sunday. Parkland equals 77. That's the name of the hospital in Dallas that JFK died at after he was shot. Now, I point this out because in 2018, we had a school shooting in Parkland, Florida at Stoneman Douglas High School. The number 77 equals 218, like moon in Hebrew. And this shooting at Parkland, Florida happened in the year 2018. Parkland 77, 77, 2180. Parkland is in the state of Florida, which has matching Latin gematria with moon, 170. Parkland also equals 216 in Latin, again connecting to the moon. JFK and Wisconsin, essentially born on the date leaving 216 days in the year. Well, back in 2011, when Aaron Rodgers had his huge playoff game against Atlanta, Dak Prescott was 17 years and 170 days old. But what really stands out about that date is that not only do we have the double 170 connected to moon 170, but we also see that this is exactly 216 lunar phases and 911 weeks. The primary area code in Dallas is 214. And the shooting in Parkland, Florida in 2018 happened on 214. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, the heart, right? Heart. Love. Well, that's cool. 969. Whoa, I just got nerd chills right there. 1969, the year of the moon landing. I don't know, guys. Maybe that's a coincidence, but it's definitely not a coincidence that Jordan has the same gematria as love, 775. Don't forget Aaron Rodgers' brother is also named Jordan, just for the record. So this 214, right, connected to Dallas, the Stoneman Douglas shooting. Sunday was 214 days after Trump's birthday. Abraham Lincoln would have been 214 years old, which I wouldn't point out, but he would have also been exactly 11,214 weeks old. Exactly. Born on a Sunday. And Trump is connected to Lincoln by the numbers. Donald John Trump equals 185, like World Trade Center. He was born exactly 1,085 sidereal months after Abraham Lincoln died. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas has Gematria of 1969, the year of the moon landing. In standard, her name is also 1999, like an upside-down 666. Inauguration day for the 47th president would be 666 months after the moon landing, as I mentioned earlier. And just think about how insane this is, right? July 20th to January 20th next year, exactly 666 months. Now look, if Trump wins re-election, Trump equals 470 and 47. So this means, in addition to becoming the 45th president, Packers winning Super Bowl 45, he would also be the 47th president. And 47, like Beast, exactly 666 months after the moon landing, the number of the beast. This is some of the most incredible coding I've ever seen. It's off the charts. President, White House, government, Republican, Democrat, all 47 as well. Donald Trump has matching Gematria with 666. He's always making the 666 hand signs. But what about this? The other number of the beast is thought to be 616. And in Latin Gematria, ritual sacrifice equals 616. So do the initials JFK, 616. Inauguration Day in 2025 is a span of 61 years and 60 days after the JFK assassination. Holy shit. Kennedy would also be 107 years old for Inauguration Day. Both ritual sacrifice and John Fitzgerald Kennedy, some to 107. This riddle even extends to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who that high school where the shooting was named after. Notice how she was born on April 7th, or 4-7, like 47. Her most influential book came out in the year 47. Sorry, I'm about an hour into this video, so my mouth starts to get confused when I start saying words. But anyway, if you measure from the death of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in 1998, the same year Jordan Love was born, she died exactly 308 months before the game, or 25 years and 8 months. Beast equals 308. Number of the beast equals 258. This game was also 283 days after her birthday. Here we go again. 666 and the moon, both 283. Notice how 666 summing to 2083. This is the 314th prime number. And in reverse Gematria, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas equals, you guessed it, 314, the big pi number. Now, to wrap this video up, the Packers will be going to San Francisco now, which is the land of 415. The city of San Francisco is home to the 415 area code. See this? 415 serving San Francisco. 415 is written April 15th in the United States, and that's the date that San Francisco was incorporated, 415. San Francisco equals 413. San Francisco CA, 417. So an average of 415. All right, maybe I'm stretching a little bit here. But this connects us back to Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln died on April 15th, or 4/15. And his death was exactly 15 years after San Francisco was incorporated. In the alphabetic order, Green Bay Packers equals 150. Bart Starr, number 15. Brett Favre was the starter for 15 full seasons. So was Aaron Rodgers before both guys went to the Jets. Of course, the Jets took down the Twin Towers on 9/11. Probably some sort of twin thing with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers there as well. The 15th of April can also be written as 15/4. And ritual sacrifice equals 154. Lincoln would have been 154 years old when JFK was killed. But check out Lincoln's birthday. 12/2. The 12th of February, 12/2. Well, Aaron Rodgers was born on the other 12/2, December 2nd. And Rodgers grew up a fan of San Francisco, the team that he could never beat in the playoffs. San Francisco equals 122, and the city sits on the 122nd meridian west. Finally, Super Bowl 45, which Rodgers and McCarthy won. Notice how this game was played just a few days after the end of Brown Lunation 1089. So when Rodgers had his breakout game against the Falcons, the lunation was 1089. Well, not only does Michael John McCarthy equal 189, but so does Aaron Rodgers and Super Bowl 45, all 189. And Abraham Lincoln, born in the year 1809. So once again, Super Bowl 45, just a complete riddle for presidential assassinations. To this day, the only Super Bowl to take place in Dallas, where JFK died. But yeah, we've gone over an hour, so I think I've probably dumped enough knowledge on you guys for this video. There's really so much more. For instance, in English Gematria, 603 score and 6 has this value of 2,500. This is how the number 666 is written in the King James Bible. And whenever I see this number, sometimes I think of Abraham Lincoln, right? Because he gave the Gettysburg Address 407 years ago. 3 These are the only times I ever hear score used for numbers. Well, 603 score and 6 equals 2,500. Well, Damian Lillard, if I can find a video here that plays this. On the same day that the Packers crushed the Cowboys, Damian Lillard hit this buzzer beater game winner to beat the Kings in Milwaukee. Milwaukee also in Wisconsin, just like the Packers. And that shot was Damian Lillard's 2,500th career three-pointer. Damian Lillard, his full name in Latin Gematria sums to 589. Just like Donald Trump, 589. Now, there's more that goes into this riddle. I don't have a lot of it written down, so I'll probably skip that. But man, Abraham Lincoln, for instance, the 16th president. Donald Trump has been in hot water lately with the government because of January 6th, or 1/6. On January 6th in 2020, Mike McCarthy was hired by the Dallas Cowboys. JFK was born 106 days after Lincoln's birthday. If you measure from Brett Favre's birthday in the same year as the moon landing to Jordan Love's birthday, you get this double 16. When man first walked on the moon, Abraham Lincoln was a span of 160 years and 160 days old, the 16th president. So yeah, this is the part of the video where I feel like I've touched on enough. You guys get it. There's wild synchronicity in the world of news, sports, government, moon missions. We really are living in the Matrix, aren't we? Or, so we're led to believe anyway. All right, guys. As I mentioned earlier, check the links down in the description below. All my blog posts from this video are down there, as well as some previous related videos. If you want to help support the work, keep the servers going, and also gain extra functionality for the calculator, a link for supporting me is down there as well. But with that, we'll wrap the video up there. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya!